Complete and total apologies for the delay heretofore in the beginning of today's transmission. Unbelievable, unforeseen technical problems that have been averted and corrected, and I beg, beseech, entreat, and importune you to provide your acceptance of my expiation, my apologies for today's delay. My friends, in the past week, or some people say, I want to say a week. Well, then say it. In the past week, I have received some of the kindest words and some of the most fascinating comments to a lot of brand new members of the conspiratorium who have said and who are saying repeatedly, thank you for the analysis. Thank you for the way to look at this. Thank you for teaching us how to sift through these things. And a lot of it has to do with this. We use this term a lot called critical thinking, which I think sometimes sounds rather highfalutin, but that's sort of what we're talking about here. And there are many, many members who have been introduced to our way of thinking through the Charlie Kirk investigation and through Candice Owens. There are people who have never really thought this is their 9/11. And I don't mean to overdo this, but it is their red pill. It is the moment that they have seen, and I hope, and I believe many of them are young. Many of them are perhaps not as jaundiced and chastened as we are and have been. But there are people who really and truly and actually are, for the first time, eye to eye with what's happening. And this is a wonderful opportunity to explain to you what's going on, to invite thoughts and comments, but also to give you an idea of how maybe this is your introduction to a way of thinking that we have been a part of forever. You see, you are not here to believe everything. And you are not here to dismiss everything. You are here to learn how to think. And that distraction sometimes, and that distinction, they're everything. To distinguish the two, to not be one of these skeptics, not be gullible, but to have a balance. Most people are trained into one of two intellectual traps: blind trust or reflex wholesale rejection. Both feel safe, but neither is serious. What you are learning here is the disciplined skepticism that you need as a citizen and as a member of the world community. The kind practiced by good prosecutors, good investigators, good cops, honest historians, and those who understand one basic truth: power does not explain itself honestly, and institutions protect themselves first. You know, it's funny. I want to remind people, Candice Owens came along, and she, if you think about this, were it not for Candice, nobody would be saying anything about Charlie Kirk. I want you to think about that for a moment. If it wasn't for her, nobody would be talking about it. Oh, there'd be some cursory reference to him, some kind of but nobody would really be going into it with any degree whatsoever. Now, that's not to say everything that she's saying is correct. It's not to say any of that. Sometimes people have commented, wait a minute, you've criticized her before. I don't agree with everything she's ever said, or anybody, whether it's Alex or Trump or anybody. And I don't know where that is. It's not an all or nothing at all. But first, remember something. I want you to pledge to me. You will never, ever, ever be afraid of asking questions. You will never be afraid to ask questions. If something stinks, if something doesn't seem right, you are probably right to pause. You are probably right to question this. That instinct that you show isn't weakness. It's your mind doing its job. And I can't say this enough. Skepticism is not negativity. It's quality control. Use your head, use your mind, use your brain. Do not surrender your reasoning to authority, or just because everybody's saying it. Do not give up or give into popularity or fear of ridicule. This is the thing that makes people very, very careful. And you are going to see this. And again, I want to repeat this to you. There are some folks who've never been through this. Some of us who have been, by virtue of our age and experience. Mine was my red pill, I'll tell you right now, and I've always said this, was 9/11. You don't know the problems I went through and sometimes go through by just bringing up 9/11, by saying this doesn't make any sense. And they call you crazy, tinfoil hat, conspiracy theorist. Look what they're doing to Candice. I mean, it's vicious. It's almost like I don't even think they realize. I think a lot of it's because of jealousy. I think a lot of it is because they don't like anybody coming up with a different story, something that dares to question the official theory or the official narrative. That's the part. People hate this. It's very nice and tidy for somebody to say, this is what happened. Nothing to worry about, nothing to see here. Don't worry, just play along. This is what's happening. This is what you should see. That's it. It doesn't work like that. Now let's go to some specifics, because let's start with the foundation. Evidence comes before belief. Documents in particular, and actual evidence, which is so critical, but documents in particular and physical evidence, these actually are critical. They come before commentary. See the facts first, then say something. Actions matter more than statements, and silence matters more than any kind of denial. When an institution, and that institution could be anything, could be media, could be TPUSA, could be the government, could be the FBI, could be whatever. But when an institution lies once, it earns scrutiny forever. The moment they lie to you. And when was the last time your government ever told you the truth? When was the last time it ever said, well, here's what happened, and it happens to be 100% true? This is not paranoia. This is precedent. Courts operate this way. This is the way we do it. We go in and we have to prove our case to a jury. And the jury, let me remind you, is people who look just like you. They're not experts. Understand how the term conspiracy theory is used. After the assassination of President Kennedy, and this is really rudimentary, the CIA circulated a memorandum of understanding, a memorandum that was meant as guidance and explication, encouraging media to label critics of the Warren Commission as conspiracy theorists. They said this. This is the weaponization of the term conspiracy theorist, not the use of it, but the weaponization. To say that you're crazy, that you're a lunatic. This is the story. It was done at the behest, at the instruction of the CIA. And you were always told to tell people, say that something is a conspiracy theory to imply the following, that it's too complicated, too impossible to have organized and orchestrated all of this belief. Do you understand that with the Kennedy assassination, it's if this was some kind of a cabal, it would have been leaked, because humans can't keep secrets. It's too complicated for mere mortals to keep secret. And the purpose of this wasn't to rebut arguments. It was to discredit the act of questioning itself. That's what happened. It started in what, right. By the way, the information, the document was declassified later, but it was done almost immediately after the Warren Commission. And the media, Mockingbird media, went along perfectly. We'll explain that in a moment. From that moment forward, skepticism was reframed, recalibrated as instability. That's all. And the weaponization of it still exists today. You've been called this. You know what I'm saying. When a label is used instead of evidence, pay attention. They still do this. And the number of people, and I've got to say this again, and maybe Candice is providing an illustration of this. Maybe that's it. But I see it exactly in how she's being treated. And it's so vehement. I mean, and then some people love to be the skeptic. Oh, she's crazy. She's crazy. Stop this. Maybe she's wrong. She is not crazy. You see what you're doing? You've heard this. You've heard this. I everything's like this for me. I've been talking about geoengineering, as have others. You may call them chemtrails. I'm crazy, even though you can look up in the sky and see this for yourself. What we're talking about right here isn't a theory. It was a confirmed CIA program that influenced major media organizations to shape public perception during the Cold War. Okay? This is Mockingbird. This is Operation Mockingbird. The lesson is not that all media are propaganda. The lesson is that media manipulation is a real tool of state power, and it still is. But here's the best part. The media that you knew and I knew is collapsing at such a rate, it's imploding. It's in free fall. That this is now the media that people pay attention to. And there's a lot of folks involved, like Candace and Tucker or Alex Jones, or name whomever you want. I watched last night. I did not catch his name, but he analyzes surveillance video on the Boston shooting case. And this was so incredibly thorough. Nobody in cable news is doing it. Nobody's questioning the narrative. Remember something. Once you close the door on critical thinking, and once the media lie to you, that door closes, it never opens. Now apply that lesson forward. September the 11th is not a single story. It is a collection of failures and omissions and classified materials and policy outcomes, which to this day hasn't even come close to being addressed. Certainly not by the media. Serious inquiry, doesn't begin with conclusions. It begins with timelines. Always look to the people who say, here's the timeline. They have graphs. They have data. They provide information as to what is being adduced, what was known, when it was known, who failed to act, what powers were expanded afterward. The Patriot Act, going back to little memory lane, the Patriot Act, mass surveillance, endless war, the growth of the national security state. It didn't emerge from nowhere. You don't need to allege orchestration to demand accountability. I'm saying this again, and please forgive me, dear friend, for repeating myself. This is a learning opportunity. This is the red pill for so many. Let's welcome our brothers and sisters to the conspiratorium. This is your entree. And once you're in for the ride. You can never go back again. They opened your eyes. Charlie Kirk meant so much to so many people. And you would think people would drop what they're doing to help and to open their eyes and to get to the bottom, but they're not. They're not even close. Not even remotely close. It's like nobody cares. The Epstein case. Remember that one? It just happened, or did it? Jeffrey Epstein is another example. Epstein was a convicted sex trafficker. That is a fact. He had documented relationships with political figures and intel-connected individuals. global elites across parties and borders and countries. He received an unprecedented plea deal. He died in federal custody under circumstances that absolutely point to homicide. 100%. Why do I know this? Because of the evidence. Hyoid bone fracture, thyroid cartilage fracture, petechial hemorrhages, all of the indicia, connected with, and this is important, homicide. And everything that involves basic correctional protocol, all of it was broken. Every rule. Cameras failed, guards slept, files remain sealed. And your government repeatedly, starting with Pam Bondi and others, said, we're going to open this. We're going to release this. Nothing was released. Nothing is open. And asking why is not conspiracy. It is prosecutorial instinct. You knew this. Do you remember the first time you were involved and shown World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, that interplay? Remember that? Members of here know Klaus Schwab, but a lot of people don't. He is out of central casting. Their writings, their speeches, the policy proposals, they're all public. Nobody hides. It's one thing about these people, they don't hide anything. Global governance frameworks, they called it stakeholder capitalism and public-private partnerships, which is really the definition of fascism. They're all openly discussed, and the question is not whether they exist. The question is how much influence unelected bodies should have over democratic systems. Same question goes back to Charlie Kirk. These are the same questions. Transparency is not extremism. My friend, why were, if 10% of what Candice Owens is saying is true, we've got a real serious problem here. Why was there so much federal interference during the investigation of Charlie Kirk? Compare and contrast this with Rob Reiner. With Rob Reiner, nobody's asking any questions. Nobody's asking a thing. It's open and shut, but yet you're given permission. Why? Because it's a distraction. Okay, little children, we'll let you go with your, no, not with Charlie Kirk stories, but here, play with Rob Reiner. He doesn't matter. Play with him. And do you know one fact about Rob Reiner that nobody's talking about? Oh, maybe a couple, but certainly not anything on cable news. I want you to think about this for a moment. And do not think I'm changing subjects. I'm giving you an example of something which is critical. Ever hear of Moby? Remember that dude, that feller Moby? He was a DJ, musician or something. Moby, M-O-B-Y, Moby, as in the dick, Moby. In 2016, he either alleged in 2016 or alleged that in 2016, members of what he calls the CIA, Intel, came to him and said, we want your social media platform. It's easier. We want you, who are already established, you've got the people we want to reach, you've got the targeted audience we want to reach. We want to use your social media, and we want to use it to perpetuate, propound, and proliferate this Russiagate kind of a theory. Do yourself and do your country a solid and let us join it. Come on, let's use your, now think about it, how brilliant that is. You've got a name. He's got a social media following. You don't have to start this off. And he said, okay, whether he did this voluntarily, whether he was coerced into it, whether he was paid, I don't know. Okay. Here's the thing, which is the most interesting, which is fascinating. During a time, Rob Reiner, who, by the way, whose tragic dispatch, and no matter what you say, remember, irrespective of whether he said terrible things about Trump or not, he's still a human being, and I'm not going to gloat over that. But during his life, you might not remember this, but a lot of us noticed that he was on his machine, so to speak, his social media platform 24/7. It was like nothing anybody ever saw. It was incredible. Couldn't believe what we saw. It never stopped. It was like a machine. There's no way one person could be putting out this much. And he came out with a perfervid anger that wasn't normal. It wasn't usual. Same thing for Robert De Niro. 24/7. I mean, go back to USAID or USAID before Doge theoretically broke it up. It was suspected that a lot of these folks were compensated to join the team, join the white hats or the black hats to perpetuate a thought, to perpetuate and to promote an idea. An idea. Help us. Trump is a bad man. Trump is involved in Russian collusion. May we use your social media platform? It's brilliant. Did you remember, going back again, this is Rob Reiner, had not a government program, but a quote, citizen or civilian project that he chaired or co-chaired that was involved in helping and disseminating information as to Trump's alleged involvement in Russian collusion theories. Who was on this board? Clapper, Brennan, Mike Pompeo. Go down the list. He and Intel worked like that. Going back in history, remember, not what Tolstoy said. Tolstoy said that history would be a wonderful thing if only it were true. Well, whose history? It's important to understand that for the longest time, the media have always been involved with Intel, and Intel was always a part of war efforts post World War II. Stay behind programs, Operation Gladio in Italy and Sicily, all the way through the media in Operation Mongoose, which is with the operation to theoretically, purportedly dispatch Castro, which led to theories as to what was responsible for the actual attempt or the actual assassination of President Kennedy. Do you see this? Let me stop. The reason why I'm saying this is in the event that we have some younger members, which I hope we do, welcome. You're the next generation. It's critical that you grasp this, learn from us, and pass it on. Go to your friends. Take this back to the nest. The reason I say that is there are some rat poisons. This is a terrible example, but some rat poisons are slow in acting. They allow rats to kind of brush up and wallow in it and then take back into the nest to spread it when they groom and preen each other. Well, in a positive way, we want this information for you to go back, take it to your friends, and understand this is nothing new. History not only repeats itself, it's the script, it's the narrative. But as they say that history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. There's a similarity to it. Same people. Understand narrative management. This is exactly what's going on. Remember during COVID, narrative management. Remember how you were told specifically you cannot provide any theories as to ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, mask failures, virus transmissibility rates. vaccine safety if you do. And what did they do? They went back into the community, sent the poison back into the nest, and had your friends and relatives turn on you if you dare to ask a legitimate question. Remember, you were a science denier. Trust the science, you were told. Remember that? Trust the science. This is what you were told. And if you veered from that in any way, you're a nut. There's something wrong with you. You see how this works? And there's gonna and by the way, this pattern is for everything. And the people who will be the loudest detractors are your friends. And sometimes they say this because they're kind of sort of jealous a little bit. They don't like the fact that you seem to know more than they do. You know, some events dominate the news cycle endlessly and others disappear overnight. Have you followed the Brown University shooting? Okay, the DC bomber, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, the sustained campaign against Candice Owens, the treatment of Alex Jones, who was the OG in terms of this, the reported the murders of Rob Reiner and his wife all receive wildly different levels of attention depending upon comparable gravity. This isn't random. Have you noticed this? Do you remember any time in your life, depending upon how old you are, where the FBI seemed as incompetent as this? Did you see the pictures of Brown University? They're walking around holding hands. It looked like an Easter egg hunt. They're just kicking the ice. What is this? Looking for it. It was a joke. Could they be that incompetent? Why are they showing you? They want you to see this. I don't know if they're trying to retrain you, recalibrate your expectation. I've never seen anything like it. It's embarrassing. First we have the guy, then we don't. They took the name of an honorable member of the armed forces, a sniper, and they gave his name. By the way, he has a lawsuit, the likes of which they just trashed him. And meanwhile, Kash Patel, who was the head of the director of the FBI, he's so busy because he's got this kind of a honeypot. He's telling the whole world, "Hey, I've got a girlfriend. I'm getting laid." It sounds like I'm being cruel. It's exactly what this is. And you ask yourself, why did President Trump hire these incompetent people, many of whom aren't even in Washington? Dan Bongino all of a sudden says, I'm leaving. This is the assistant director. Why? This is causing marital problems. He's been married for 30 years. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but it's not like this new couple. He's got kids that are not grown, but he knew what he was getting into. Everybody in Washington, he says, I can't believe that I got to the office at 6:30 and sometimes Kash was there at Trump works 24 hours. It's something weird. Do you think they fired, that they told Bongino, listen, you're on your way out. So you could fall on the sword. You can say you quit, whatever it is, but you're out of here, which I think is less likely because he's the assistant director. Maybe he didn't get along with Kash. Did you see the story of Susie Wiles? Why would she or anyone go to, the story is, to Vanity Fair over a year and then be surprised that they wrote terrible things? I don't know. Again, my friends, for many of you, you say, well, I knew that. Again, I want to welcome our new members, our new younger members of the Conspiratorium. Members, by the way, from our foreign friends who are watching. By the way, just as an aside, I would love to see a roll call. Where are you now? What city? No, not your address, but what state, what country? To give an idea of what's happening right now. We do this all the time. And the Conspiratorium, we're a modest organization. You have someone from Australia as we speak. Look at this. New Jersey, a lot of Jersey strong, a lot of Jersey folks here. London, Australia. This is phenomenal. Jacksonville, Duval County. And you're able to speak to each other and to me now. There was a story recently where you heard this, where the Oscars are going to be broadcast on YouTube. And people are saying, well, that's crazy. That makes so much sense. It's not even funny. Nottingham, Kentucky, Normandy, France. This is on. It never ceases to blow my mind. All of our brothers and sisters. Look at this, Bobby. Bobby joins us right now. Look, this is incredible. And I'm saying this again. If you're a young person, if you're new here, if you're a first-time member, I want the elder members of the consortium, of the conspiratorium, to bring our friends in, especially regarding Charlie Kirk. Let me ask you a question. Do you remember, and this is important, when was it September the 10th or whatever it was, when Charlie Kirk was tragically mowed down like a dog? The number of people who told me that they couldn't believe how their teenage sons and daughters were devastated, and they had no idea. They had no idea. Do you understand this? Did you have that? Maybe your own children, maybe your grandchildren, maybe somebody. Did you see this? Did you see friends of yours who had themselves, or you saw members of your family, friends, for example, who were so devastated, and you thought, I never knew they even cared. I never knew they were even Charlie Kirk fans. This happened all the time. It was something that was so interesting to me. How does this work? How was this so missed? It was so sad for them. It was their John Lennon moment, or their Kennedy, or it's sad to say, but it was sometimes there are kids who have their first moment like this. And that's why I wanted to tell them, this is a learning tool. We can show them. And by the way, a lot of people might be in their 60s who, for the first time, Charlie Kirk affected them. This was a young man who made absolutely no bones about the fact that he believed in Christianity. He believed in the Bible. He believed in the tenets and the edicts of the Bible. He believed in marriage, of not having sex before marriage, whatever you think. Piers Morgan, who makes Geraldo look like Niels Bohr. Piers Morgan was laughing at and mocking Nick Fuentes. Now, you were told that you must hate Nick Fuentes because he's a racist and an anti-Semite. You're told this unequivocally. There is no way around this. You have to hate him. You're told this. He said something once, that's it. He has said some things in the past I don't subscribe to. Same thing goes for Trump. I don't believe in everything he said. Same thing with Candice. Same thing with everybody. I don't have to endorse somebody. Do you know anybody that you endorse 100%? Have you ever changed your mind about something you believed in? It's rare. But this young man, instead of us saying, come here, let's get to him. Let's find out how we can send him back to the nest. And listen to what he's saying. Listen. Don't lie. Sparky, welcome. FBI agents should lean into the ridicule and use big handheld magnifying glasses like their cartoon Sherlock Holmes at Brown University. Absolutely. Absolutely. If you have somebody in your family, If you have somebody in your family who poses a question, who says something, they believe something, whether it's about Israel or the Middle East or Putin or Ukraine or abortion or crime or tariffs or anything, sit down with them. And you know the first thing you say? Interesting. Why do you say that? Teach me. And it forces them to explain it. And sometimes they can't explain it. Don't laugh at them. Don't say, that's ridiculous. Listen to them. Listen to them. Whatever it is, whether it's about anxiety, and sometimes younger people can say things that people from our generation, we don't understand all this anxiety and trans business. And okay, but don't dismiss them. Why do you think that is? No matter what this subject is, I think gender is a matter of opinion. That's interesting. Why do you think that? Don't let them talk. And don't dismiss them. Act like you care what they have to say. Act like you're interested. Bring them in. We have a fellow in this city who just ran for mayor and he won. Zoran Mamdani, whose name no one, they call him Mandani and they can't pronounce his name after all this time. And he said some things that were brilliant. Affordability. He wants to make buses and public transportation free. He wants free food stores and markets. He wants a lot of things. They call him a socialist, a Marxist, a communist. He's not. Because you may not know this, but some of us, when we were in school, we had to have this thing called civics classes. And civics classes told us basically what a planned economy is, what socialism versus communism versus Marxism versus welfare states. Okay. So I tell people here, the Republican Party, let me tell you right now, this is my party right now. And those of you who have seen me say this to you, this is my party. My party is the Constitution. This is my party. And I believe in vote. Every time I vote, I have these little stickers I put in the back. This is I'm rode hard and put up wet. I believe in the Constitution. I'm an American. I know that sounds kind of corny. That's all I know. I'm not an Italian American. I'm an American. I'm born in this country. And the Constitution, this is the rule book. And if you want to play tennis, you got to look at the rule book, house rules. And there's a lot of leeway in that. But I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm not. I don't. If you call me a conservative, you can. Those words don't mean anything. They don't mean anything to me. Because I'm about freedom. And I'm about not having the government tell you what to do. And you may call it libertarian. But I believe in letting people speak. Now, that's over here. Running politics is another story. That, by the way, is this concept called psephology. PSE, like psychology. PSE, PSEPHOLOGY. Psephology is a study of elections. The process of it. Completely different than ideology. The process of the elections. You're told that if you suspect that an election has been rigged, you're an election denier. So going back to what I'm saying, Mamdani talks about a lot of things. And the Republican Party, which is non-existent in New York, instead of reaching out and asking people, well, what do you think? And why do you say this? And what do you believe? No, they just dismiss these people. They said they're crazy. They're stupid. They're dumb. They're nuts. I can't believe it. I say, you're missing the opportunity. Why are you dismissing people? Do you remember when you were younger and you wanted to do something to stand out? Maybe you grew your hair long, or maybe this isn't my generation, but maybe it was the music. Maybe it was, I don't know, maybe today you get a tat and I don't know. Remember something. Our goal is persuasion. I'm a trial lawyer by profession. I was a prosecutor. I could think anything I want. But that jury I had to persuade, not explain them. Oh, I could explain that. I could explain the case. I have to persuade them. I have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that something happened. Or if I'm the defense lawyer, I've got to create reasonable doubt. But you are the jury. We are a grand jury. I'm speaking to you. I'm giving you the evidence, and I respect what you believe, and I respect your ideas, and there's plenty of room for dissension here. That's fine. I know people who despise President Trump. I understand it. I don't dismiss them. I've never blocked anybody on Twitter. I've been blocked by still David Crosby, Alec Baldwin, Keith Olbermann. I got a lot of other people go down the list. Blocked me. Piers Morgan, Mr. Unfiltered. Blocked little old me. I never blocked anybody. I can ignore you. See, I want you to learn this thing called so what. It's the policy of hashtag so what. Nick Fuentes said this. So what? Nick Fuentes said this about Israel. So what? Nick Fuentes, good, okay. Candice Owens said this. She said that there were Egyptian flights and Is it true? God bless anybody who calls to attention at least the truth behind this. Everything that we're talking about right now is not random. Attention is power, and what you are told to focus on determines what you ignore. And I go back to Charlie Kirk. Remember, this is the new 9/11. This is a lot of people red pilled. How many of you fine folks still can't believe they're not going to do anything to get to the bottom of Charlie Kirk? Nothing. Megan Baldwin says, happy holidays to the best teacher on YouTube. I always love watching your content. Thank you for covering this Charlie situation. Also, there was an unhinged polar bear on the loose in Fulton County yesterday. Oh my God. Well, let me tell you something. Thank you for that. Polar bears, as Joe Rogan, who was a good pal and a good lesson, he's fascinated by the ferocity of bears. By the way, a great adjective for bears is ursine. Matters that are bear-like is ursine, from Ursa Major, in any event. So this is something which, again, I remind you, Charlie Kirk, and I want to say to my friends, my young people in particular, watch how they ignore him. They will make a lot of, did you ever have a dog? By the way, welcome to a new member. Thank you, sir. Did you ever see a dog go around in the bed? You go, what's he doing? He makes a circle and he goes around. That's what a lot of the news covers. Watch cable news. They don't say anything about this because they're told by their higher ups not to make a big deal about it. And Charlie Kirk's assassination raised immediate questions about ballistics, evidence handling, federal involvement, procedural irregularities. Quick show of hands. How many of you find people watching right now live? We are all in this singular moment. You can watch it again and replay it later. How many believe the official narrative that Tyler Robinson took out a 30-06? His granddaddy's, I think. They say it was an old weapon. Candice suggests that remember the story about it was amazing. It hit this neck bone, and Charlie's bone anatomy was so tough because of clean living in the Lord, and there was the bullet just disintegrated within the bone, and there was no exit or ricochet. Others are saying it was frangible, meaning it exploded. Do you believe this story? Is there anybody here with with any common sense? Do you believe this story? If I'm the prosecutor, I'm going to ask you, do you believe this? Whenever we have, and ever in life, especially, by the way, believe it or not, especially in the case of arson prosecutions, you look at how people react. Is that the way a mother reacts? When the police comes and they said, hey, they suspect maybe the parents might be involved in something. They say, is that the way the parent exact? Is that the way they respond to this? Is that the way they show their? Is that it? That's odd. Remember when Tyler Robinson supposedly gets on who talks after he's on the lam. He's panicking, and he texts to his girlfriend or gay lover, whatever it was, the fuzzy, wuzzy bear hat dude, Lance Twiggs or whatever his name is, and sends him a text that says, using complete sentences and unique phraseology that young people, especially monosyllabic young folk, he's writing extensive tweets about using words like vehicle and punctuation, and he's beseeching, he's asking his lover, his whatever, to come forward, Lance Twiggs, come forward and go help find that shooting iron. That was my granddaddy's shooting iron. And we have to, why would you risk your loved ones being arrested, excuse me, as it looks around for this rifle? None of this makes any sense. Cameras that were grabbed, SD cards that were removed. I mean, immediately, it's like, this doesn't make any sense. Federal involvement. Remember how quickly they either concretized or paved or destroyed the event? I mean, it's one after another. Did you watch the performance? And I say this, I'm not trying to besmirch her in any way. By the way, Truth says, Lionel, this is very good. Truth says, hang on a minute. There we go. It says, Lionel, the golden key in the Charlie Kirk case is the surveillance cameras in full context from the rooftop. One of many. I heard, and by the way, thank you. I heard people suggest that this was an exit wound, not an entry wound. There were competent civilian experts who were pointing to cameras and light behind a variety. The point is this represents reasonable doubt. This represents experts. To be an expert witness in court, you don't have to have a degree. You could be an expert. And one time there was a case years ago where there happened to be a young man, he might have been not even 16 years old, who was this was in Florida, who was classified, or who was ruled or classified as an expert in scuba diving. This kid knew more about scuba diving than you can imagine. Sparky says supposedly MLK Jr. was killed with a 30-06, ended up inside him, but in order to do that, it hit his jawbone, collarbone, and his shoulder blade, 3 hard bones. Look, all I'm saying is, this is wonderful. This is wonderful. This is wonderful. And that's why we need, Sparky and everybody, we need to have our own group. Let me stop, and please, I've got so much to say. I haven't even hit half of it. So what I'm saying may seem sometimes to the untrained ear disjointed, but it is not. This is me merely changing the subject or stopping to illustrate a point that we just made. After Vietnam, there was something called a Russell Tribunal. After Bertrand Russell, or Sartre, after Jean-Paul Sartre, and they would go around the country and they would have like an individual citizen grand juries to talk about why we were in the Vietnam War, what the evidence was that was presented to us, whether it turned out to be true, etc., etc., etc. We need to have separate channels where I can put on today's witness is so-and-so. There was a fellow I saw last night. Maybe you know his name, but he just goes through surveillance cameras. It's crowdsourcing. It's brilliant. And there are people who are saying, I do not believe in the story. So what I'm saying is, before I forget, when you say, I don't believe the official story, they will then ask you, okay, then who killed him? Your response is, excuse me, it's your story, not mine. I don't have to come up with a story behind this. During 9/11, Remember, some of you weren't even born then, but this was a very, 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 this was 24 years ago. At 5:20 p.m. that day, the third building, Building 7, World Trade Center 7, dropped on its own footprint at free fall speed. It was hit by nothing. 5:20 p.m. that afternoon. And most people have never heard of it. In fact, there was an organization called Building What? After the joke, after a federal judge who said, what's Building 7? What building what? Now, when I said to people that I was not necessarily in favor of this official belief that it was carpet fire or drapery fires or the quote, the debris it took, these are buildings that can withstand hurricane wind. And they said, well, next door when the debris hit it, what is this, made of cardboard? So they would ask me, well, then what do you think? Well, what do you think happened? Excuse me, it's not my story, it's yours. I don't have to tell you anything. I don't have to explain to you why. I don't have to explain to you anything. By the way, my friends, I ask you to, I keep this to a minimum, but you know that liking the video, subscribing are critical to our metrics. That's all I'm going to say. I hate when they, like in the middle of something's good and they'll stop and they'll say, and please like this. Yes, I know. But it's important. It's important. It's critical. There are so many things. Let me go back to this question. Here's the question nobody wants to ask. Here's the question nobody will talk about. What did you think of Erica Kirk's testimony? What did you think of Erica Kirk's demeanor, her countenance, her affect, her look about doing media events? I am not, and I'm saying this repeatedly, I'm not going to attack a woman whose husband was killed, who now is a mother of 2 kids who are without a father. I'm not going to do this. But as many people have said, as Candice brought up, because there's Erica the widow, leave her alone. But then there's Erica the CEO of TPUSA. That's a different story. And you can't dismiss what she's saying just because, well, this is a terrible event. And yes, it is a terrible event. You're right about that. It's a horrible event. But that doesn't mean that you can't say, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense now. There's something weird about this. There's something strange. If that's what you believe, if you don't believe this, I didn't understand. I saw there's something involving stagecraft. May I tell you something which somebody brought up recently? You do know there are other forms there's the opinion, the dark web, so to speak. There are sources that you see. There are blind, they used to call them blind gossip, but there are stories, there are sites that are more clandestine. And then there's industry. The MIT case, the assassination of the nuclear physicist or the nuclear physicist. I'm not going to give you every idea, but there's other country involvement that's seemingly plausible. Remember when we would attack Iranian nuclear scientists, nuclear physicists, remember that? Just with a Hellfire missile, take the guy out. You know how you've been told Iran they're the most evil. I just looked up number 666. Coincidence? You do the math. Iran, they say, is the most evil of all organizations. Okay. Why do you believe that? Well, because they tell me that. Do you think these people are abnormal? Do you think the Persians are hateful people who... You're told this. Do you believe in attacking people in the water? Boats? Venezuela? Because we think, they're involved in drug trafficking. Let's just blow them up. Just blast them with Hellfire missiles or whatever. Do you hear what's going on here? They think you're going to just sit back and say, Don't say anything about Erica. Okay. Okay. Somebody said something the other day. And when I brought this up, it reminded me of McLuhan's line that says that little lies are hard to keep secret, but big lies are easy because of incredulity. Nobody ever wants to say, "Oh, I don't believe this story. I don't know about her. I'm not so sure about this Erica." In movies, people will ask sometimes, how do you cry? How do these actors know how to cry? How? How? How do these people cry? Well, one of them means is there are these little devices, like a little fan that blows vapor like menthol, like Vicks vapor rubber. And when it hits your eyes, you start tearing like you cannot believe. There are other people who suggested that, and I'm not saying this, please believe me. I'm not saying this. But other people I know here in New York, those in the business, said, interesting how she always dabs her eye like this. And somebody suggested that maybe the amount of tears that were being produced always had to do with this particular wipe, which I said, well, maybe, yeah, but the wipe to me is the reason why she's putting up is because she's crying. The wipe comes after the tears, doesn't cause. Anyway, you can put some of these substances on this. Now, when I told somebody this, and I'm not subscribing to that, I'm just telling you what somebody said. It's interesting, isn't it, though? Someone listening said, you can't say that. Why? Because she's a widow. I said, well, why can't you say something like that? You can't say that. I say any goddamn thing I want to. What do you mean I can't say that? What do you mean I can't? Listen to what they do. They say you can't say that. Yeah, I can. You see what they do? They tell you can't say that. You can't say that a building fell at free fall speed because that would imply a controlled demolition. And no, I don't even want to think about that. I can't know. You can't tell me that the Gulf of Tonkin was fake because that means that Vietnam was a ruse. That means that our government took in 58,000 American deaths and murders in effect, not to mention millions of injured because of a lie. People don't want to hear this. It's like their Santa Claus moment. Don't tell me there's no Santa Claus. Don't. And by the way, there is a Santa Claus. But do you see what's going on? This is what they're doing. They're telling you, don't ask questions. And they're coming after Candice. They're saying she's crazy. She's not crazy. She's not crazy. And I'm going to say this for the millionth time, and I repeat myself. You don't have to necessarily agree with everything she's ever said about regime Macron or whatever it is. Those are different issues. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about that now. The question that we're talking about, the questions you have in your own incredulity are viewed as somehow unacceptable. Not wrong, but unacceptable. And that distinction matters. Candice Owens, I will say again, faced backlash, not from making claims, but for asking questions. Think about this. When questioning itself becomes the offense, you are no longer dealing with journalism. You are dealing with narrative enforcement, or I don't know what the name of it is. And this is where Alex Jones enters the discussion. Now, Alex Jones, whatever you think, he's the granddaddy of this. He changed everything. He inspired everybody. Whether it's Tucker, whether it's Candice, you name it, he was there first. He enters a discussion as a principle, not a personality, so to speak. The principle is very simple. Never be afraid to ask questions. Alex handled Sandy Hook perhaps incorrectly. He may have said some things which a jury did not care for, whether it's true or not. But why must you believe in the official narrative? If you think something doesn't add up, shouldn't you say something? How many times have you believed that something didn't occur? If he didn't think that actual event in Sandy Hook, and I'm not an expert enough to say, well, I really didn't study it, but if that's his opinion, I can ask the question right now. How many of you fine people don't believe we landed on the moon? Can't believe the number of people who don't believe we landed on the moon. Are they somehow, what, crazy? Is this baseless? Are they crazy? Should they not be able to say this? What if somebody goes up to Buzz Aldrin and says, hey, Buzz, who must be 100 years old, hey, Buzz, we don't think you landed on the moon. And if Buzz and his family say, we can't go out, people are threatening us, people are saying anything. Why? Because you said you didn't believe we landed on the moon. Are you going to now be sued because the Aldrin family suffered indignation and reprisal from people who didn't? I mean, think where this is going. Don't you constantly, what we're doing is we're always questioning the official narrative. That's what Alex Jones did. And look what they did to him. They went after him to put him out of business, and he's still hanging on. And I hope he's always, whether you like him or not, if you don't like him, don't listen to him. Period. I may not like Piers Morgan. I don't want him taken off the air. I don't want The View taken off the air, or Joy Behar, or Joy Reid, because I disagree with them. No, let them speak. I just don't watch. I believe in First Amendment guarantees. Skepticism is not insanity, it's awareness. And what Alex Jones says is he has been so right, it's not even funny. And the mistake that we make is not questioning power. I want you to follow my wife at Lynn's Warriors. She's constantly saying to herself, what are they doing? President Trump signed an executive order removing from the states the ability to control its own version of AI safety. That is a complete and total unconstitutional 10th Amendment, whatever you want to call it, but this violates states' rights. Can't believe this. Can't believe it. And we question it. Doesn't mean we hate President Trump. Not at all. The mistake is abandoning discipline. Claims have to be tested. And I'm telling you right now, as I've told you, my fear, the number one existential threat to our humanity, to our species, is artificial intelligence. Guaranteed. Nothing. Not the bomb, that's it. But listen, especially my young folks, evidence has to be verified. Emotion can't outrun proof. And again, AJ, as we call him, is often used as some kind of a cautionary tale to discredit inquiry itself, which is, by the way, one of the reasons why he was sued. They wanted him to be an object lesson. And the lesson should be more precise. Question everything that you want to question. Everything. And do not get upset with me if I question something, whether it's your religion, your political beliefs, whether you like a song or not. I've never been a big fan of the Beatles. You have no idea what that, people look at me and say, you can't say that. You have to love the Beatles. No, I don't. They're okay. I think Wings was better. But prove what you claim. Don't stack assumptions. Don't confuse pattern recognition with certainty. Do not let your sense of urgency override accuracy. Credibility is built slowly and it's destroyed instantly. Know the difference between believing in something and proving something. Think like a prosecutor. Separate facts from allegations, from hunches, from hints, from allegations, from inference. Don't do that. Avoid inference from speculation. Ask who controls the evidence, who controls the narrative, who benefits, cui bono, cui prodest, who benefits from this interpretation, who gains from dismissal. Ask why some questions are welcome and others are punished. Who's in charge of this? Mainstream media, they are dead. Cable news, it's dead. It's like that star that burned out 1 million years ago, but the light hasn't hit you yet. That's exactly what this is. Mainstream media are not dangerous because they lie constantly. It's dangerous because it frames selectively. It tells you what matters before you decide. It sort of primes emotion before analysis, and it conditions your reaction. And walking away from that, and I hate that term, that ecosystem, but it's not ignorance. It's intellectual self-defense. It's being a picky eater intellectually. I don't particularly care for this. I kind of go for the headlines, just like, what are they saying? I couldn't tell you what cable news is saying. None. Read primary sources, court filings, transcripts, government reports, witness accounts, and watch what is omitted. Notice what's not followed up on, which is everything. Silence is data. My friend, especially again, I keep saying to our younger friends, you are not joining a movement, you are learning a skill. And the skill is independent analysis and critical thinking. And the courage required to do it. The courage required is not to believe anything unpopular, but to say, I don't know yet. I'm not sure. To sit with uncertainty. It's okay to resist pressure to conform prematurely. This is the example of the superior mind. Never outsource your thinking. Not to the government, not to the media, not to personalities you admire, not to friends. Use your mind, use your brain, use your independent judgment. If something stinks, you're allowed to say so. When there's something in your fridge that's rotten, you got to find it. And that little box of baking soda, which I don't know what that does, that's not going to help anything. If something doesn't seem right, you are allowed to question it. It is that simple. Our friend Sparky writes, M1 30-6, a lot of here to read here, and combine, use different ammo. Only the M1 is 30-6. People can hear M1 carbine but repeat only M1. They need people to think the more powerful 30-6. I will let people who have a better source of ballistics read that. I thank you for that. By the way, you are able to learn anything on a moment's notice. You can become expert in a lot of different things. And I certainly am not any expert on military firepower and the like, but I thank you for that. Certainly, please read our friend Sparky's comments. This is not about replacing one orthodoxy with another. It's about reclaiming the right to think like a lawyer. Again, calm, methodical, unimpressed by authority, focus on the evidence, focus on facts. You want to be skeptical of narratives that punish questions more than crime. That's what we're talking about right here. And listen to what Candice is saying, not because whether you like her or not. You don't have to like her. You're not her friend. This is not about her being your friend. Listen to what she's saying, because she's the only one asking the questions. And by the way, that is how you stay grounded. That is how you avoid losing your mind. That is how you remain free in an environment that's designed to basically make you compliant. We are not going to do this. So I want you to understand this. To recap this, again, we need, if you know someone younger, if you know someone who is upset by what happened to Charlie, use what Candice Owens is saying, talk to them about it. Next, never accuse them of something that's wrong. Ask them, well, why do you think that? That's interesting. Let them speak. Let them hear in their own words that they really may not know as much as they think they know, which is also critical. Make sure you involve yourself in a way, this is important, make sure you always involve yourself in a way where you let people work with you. You want them to understand how to think. In law school, when we did an exam, we had the IRAC rule, IRAC. It was an acronym for issue, rule, analysis, conclusion. Thank you, Edie. Best to Mrs. L. Lemmy. Thank you so much. IRAC, issue, rule, analysis, conclusion. What's the issue? What's the issue before us? What's the issue for? At common law, can burglary be committed at night? Or during the day, if there's prohibition, is nighttime. This is in the court of common law. That's the issue. Number two, what's the rule? Well, you state the rule as is. Analyze it based upon the rule and the issue, and then make a conclusion. Following this linear way of thinking, that's all. And if you don't know, and if I have a hunch, what I will say sometimes is, it wouldn't surprise me. That's my code word for it. I'm kind of leaning in this, but I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if Rob Reiner, remember when Rob Reiner after Trump won, he had to go into, quote, rehab to calm down because of his own TDS. Remember that? He went into rehab. You don't go into rehab it's not a resort. It's not a spa where you calm down. He wiped out his account immediately. Same thing for De Niro. I wouldn't be surprised if De Niro, who basically is on the balls of his arse, with I don't know how many ex-wives and kids, these movies aren't making. They don't make. They're not as rich as you think. Believe me, that's a different world. It's like why a lot of these rock stars are having to perform in their 70s and 80s, not because they want to, but they have to. So always ask kind of what's their motivation behind this. Don't always think it's a CIA or NSA or Intel, but don't rule it out. Don't be surprised if it is. There's a lot that's going on. Look up, research Moby, M-O-B-Y. Look what he said about the CIA asking him to either surrender or rent out his social media. I cheer Candice. Keep her asking questions. Absolutely. And by the way, Candice has been saying one of the reasons why she has been targeted for this is because what she has said about Israel. She can say whatever she wants about Israel. You don't have to agree with it. Well, why not? I can say that I hate my country. That's okay. I can say that I hate my country. Nobody cares about that. But I can't say something about a foreign country? Oh, no. Oh, no. I don't know where that rule came from, but I ain't abiding by that one. So, my friends, thank you so much. We have done an hour and 12 minutes worth. I wanted sometimes to mix the recorded with the live to let you know that we exist. To thank you, let me also say, your comments are so critical. I'm going to have some questions afterwards in the comment section. I have historically not even read them because they can be brutal. And frankly, I don't shut people down, but I don't want to necessarily participate in my own character assassination. So I just got to, okay. But your comments have been incredibly supportive about new people. Thank you for the analysis. And I realize this is what we need. We need, again, especially young people who may have been red-pilled by what's happened with Charlie Kirk. And let me just say something. Can you think of any other person other than Candice Owens who's even talking about it? If what she said wasn't problematic to TPUSA, why did they send Erica Kirk out to have that meeting with her? Why? Candice became more popular. Erica Kirk is she's going to be squeezed out. I'll give her some money and be done. That was a gravy train that a lot of people realized, oh my God. And if you believe this story that Tyler Robinson, this lone nut, if you believe all of a sudden, this is the guy, come on. And if look at how more people cared about Gene Hackman. They wanted to know everything about Gene Hackman. Where did his wife go? Did they have the dogs in the home? Was the dog in the closet? Was the dog in the cage? Did the dog die first? Who found everything about Gene Hackman? Because there was nothing it was like a tackling dummy. They let you just spend all of your time talking about Gene Hackman. Same thing now with Rob Reiner. This is open and shut. This lunatic, there's nothing there. But Charlie Kirk, oh, no. No, that's different. That's for the adults to talk about. Shh. We'll tell you what to think about. And that crazy Candice, she's just a nut. I don't think so. God bless her. Because, again, she's the only one asking questions. And I think she should be supported. All right, dear friends, thank you so much. Please do me a great and a noble favor. My beloved is doing some of the greatest work ever, ever, ever at Lynn's Warriors. And I'm going to give you this. This is at Lynn's Warriors. Just go to YouTube and sign up and subscribe to Lynn's Warriors. Let me tell you who the number one lobbying group in this country is. Not AIPAC, big tech, Silicon Valley. And they do not like you questioning what threatens children via AI and the like. Believe me, it's been an uphill battle because they're going to get after and through your kids through phones, through digital predation. That's how they're going to do it, not the guy in the white van. And now kids are harming themselves. It's the most incredible thing in the world. And I can't believe how the industry is fighting back. So follow her at Lynn's Warriors. Sign up immediately. They just declassified marijuana. Now, marijuana, I don't believe marijuana should be against the law. Never thought drugs should ever be against the law. But my friends, the weed today is nothing like it was of the 60s and 70s. And there are kids who are being rushed to emergency rooms constantly. That's President Trump as well, giving into that respect. Again, he's a great man, but he's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. So follow Lynn's Warriors, I ask you. All right, my friends, that is it. Have a wonderful and a great day. Please like this video. Subscribe to Lionel Nation. Let me thank you for your being with us and for being a part of this. I appreciate it so very much. You have been wonderful. Again, follow in the comment section. I've got some questions for you. And until we meet again, remember, stay subscribed to Lionel Nation so you know when the new stuff is coming. I'm going to hit that little bell. Until then, my friends, I always say, with this particular, and follow me overnights on WABC, 1 to 5 a.m., Monday through Friday, overnights. Think Art Bell meets AJ meets the Twilight Zone, whatever you want to call it. WABC, the premier terrestrial talk radio station in the United States. So I've got all the platforms covered. Be more than happy, so honored for you to join us there. It's 770 WABC. You can go to WABCradio.com and listen online. And follow me on X at Lionel Media, as a little label there provides. All right, dear friends, until we meet again, remember the monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue ya. Da-da.